Hello.
Hello.
Do you think I wasn't going to show up?
I was just about to text you. Because
I
I thought maybe I was on the wrong, maybe I had the wrong link or something.
Yeah, that happens to me in Zoom meetings. If the host isn't on early, then I get nervous. But I just realized for the first time I'd forgotten to publish the minutes officially on the webpage. So I just did that.
Oh,
But
Huh.
were they
they were part
in
of the packet.
Yeah.
They were in the
Yeah.
packet because I did the minutes, but then I didn't do the final step of publishing them on OnBase.
Oh.
That's a new one, so done.
And is that one of those technicalities that must be met?
Well, it must be met eventually. I think just best practice is to get them up as soon as possible
Yeah.
for the community.
Mm-hmm. But as long as they were in the packet, we should still be able to approve them tonight, correct?
Yeah, now they're public as well, so.
All right.
Hmm.
Okay, well, it is 6:30 and it looks like we have a quorum. I assume there's Christy. All right, so I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us. And that is a quorum. So why don't we go ahead and get started? We'll call this meeting of the Sustainability Committee to order. First item is approval of the minutes, which we were just talking about. Does anybody have any comments or corrections to make on the minutes? I have just a few. One, while I'm waiting for others to raise hands if they have any questions, on page, I guess it's numbered page 6, under the fleet subgroup and purchasing policy next steps, it should say anecdotal instead of antidotal evidence. Minor, it's minor. And
But those
then-
antidotes can come in handy, right?
Yes, they can. And then on the top of page 7, it says Hanairo added one more recommendation to move up goals for the 100% renewable energy goal. So that was already in the draft, a previous draft that was circulated. What I added were 2 related to conservancy lands and the comprehensive plan, land use and water actions. And that was just because, well, I won't go into detail as to why I did that, but it made it consistent with earlier parts of the plan where we actually say we're going to recommend that that these other actions which aren't related to energy are followed through on.
Okay, so what would you like me to say? She added what?
Added 2 more recommendations related to conservancy lands
Okay,
and the land use and water actions in the comprehensive plan. And then it's okay to keep the committee discussed environmental justice plan. And then the last thing is just that the standing agenda item, we had talked about inviting Brian in either July or August. And it just says in July. I didn't want it to look like we have to do it in July. Anybody else?
Yeah, you covering minutes? Sorry, I just
Yes.
got here.
Do you have any, hi Dick, do you have any other comments or corrections?
I did, and I just sent them to Kelly so she could see my text. Basically, I had 2 things. One was related to the award thing. And I changed it to reach out to Eau Claire to ask about logistics of award and cross out
okay.
orchids and onions, but no onions. I talk about it, but what we did is we reached out to Eau Claire. And then I added a little more clarity. The Lathrop, Weitzel, Eilertson, and Bindle will meet to propose award criteria for next committee meeting. So I sent that Kelly. Kelly, did you get that? It was an email. I just sent it 5 minutes ago.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
Okay,
lo-
the text, you'll see it. And then
Okay.
the the second clarity thing is on the very next paragraph, related to the LED bulbs. So I moved, Weitzel and Lathrop ordered 400 LEG watt equivalent for in-apartment replacement fixtures at Voss House. I wanted to clarify that. These
Okay.
bulbs were not available at 25 cents each. And then I said, rather than repeating our names, I said some 75 watt and 100 watt equivalent light bulbs were purchased at a discounted rate for distribution to residents requesting LEDs at Voss House. So again, I sent that text to Kelly, just so she would have it to make it easier to amend the minutes, but I read it through. Is that clear enough, Lisa?
Yep, great. Thank you for sharing those comments with us, Dick, and with Kelly. And I appreciate that. Anybody else have comments or corrections to make on the minutes? If not, then with those corrections that I relayed and Dick relayed, both now in email, the minutes, amended minutes will be approved. All right, let's move on to the next agenda item, which is public comments. And we limit these to 3 minutes each. Do we have anybody from the public who would like to make a comment? Last call for comments. All right, not seeing any. We'll move on to the next item, which is a brief message from me, because this is my last meeting as chair of the Sustainability Committee. I'm going to continue to serve as a member, but I'll be representing the council on the committee, and I'm stepping down as chair and looking forward to having someone else step into this role, because I think it's a great role to have. In a few minutes, we will be having the election of chair and vice chair. But before I turn the gavel over, I wanted to take a few minutes to review what we have accomplished over the past 2 years. And this will be a reminder to the more seasoned members of the committee. And I hope it'll be good background information and also maybe even some inspiration for the new members. And we'll be meeting all of you in just a minute. As you'll see when I go through this list, we have a lot to be proud of. I joined 2 years ago. It was right during the pandemic. That was tough. I still haven't had a face-to-face meeting with the committee. I hope sometime in the next year we'll be able to do that at least once. And the pandemic definitely slowed us down, I think. Well, it slowed everybody down, right? But it didn't stop us, nor did it stop the world. Now, keep in mind what I'm about to review doesn't even include the many, many things that Kelly and other staff, especially in the planning department, have accomplished over the last couple of years. Things like solar installations, or the new project to bring energy efficiency and even solar to naturally occurring affordable housing. Those are the staff's accomplishments, and they're the ones who deserve all the credit for that. But here's what we as committee members have done. First, we spurred council into passing a resolution honoring the life of George Floyd and committing Middleton to, among other things, working together to identify and to eliminate systemic racism. That was actually the very first thing we did during my term as a committee member. We hosted an LED bulb exchange and a paper shredding event at the Middleton Recycling Center. It was a really big success, very widely attended, and that may have been in part because it was one of the first things that people could actually go to at that particular time, because everything had been closed up. We also distributed LED bulbs to Middleton neighbors through the Middleton Outreach Ministry, or MOM. We did that twice during December of 2020 and 21. And then this year, as we just heard a little bit about, Deb and Dick are heading up efforts to work with Voss House to bring LED bulbs and energy efficiency to even more Middleton residents. We submitted comments on the draft comprehensive plan, which I'm told were the most in-depth comments the planning department received from any of the committees. For the first time ever, we had a presence in the Good Neighbor Festival with our Sustainable Middleton parade entry and our booth. And I really hope our participation in 2021 will become an annual thing. We supported Daphne Wu, our former high school student, and the Middleton Green team with their successful efforts to persuade the MCP ASD school board to adopt a resolution regarding, I think of it as a green resolution, but also a clean energy one. We launched Sustainable You, our series of webinars to help Middleton residents learn about how to live more sustainably and what the city is doing to do the same. We also partnered with the Friends of Pheasant Branch Conservancy to host one of those events, and we're coordinating with them on our scheduling so we wouldn't overlap and or we wouldn't have conflicting dates. And we also agreed to start publicizing each other's events to expand our reach. When the city won the Innovation Award from the Wisconsin Policy Forum, we had the honor of accepting the award on behalf of the city, and four of us, including Kelly, got to be in the excellent video vignette that the forum commissioned. Thanks to residents and their tireless efforts to make Middleton green its fleet of vehicles, a few things happened. First, we're developing a fleet assessment life cycle cost analysis tool, or FELCA, and working with the city staff to try to use it as they refine their fleet replacement plan. And second, we're on the verge of beginning our review of the city's apparently forgotten 2017 sustainable purchasing plan, and we'll be making a recommendation to council later this year about how to our recommendations for using it. We submitted comments on the plans for the proposed acre farm housing subdivision at the request of the Plan Commission. This is the first time in my 2 years at the committee that we've been asked to submit comments on a proposal like this. I hope it won't be the last, but I do think we'll need to request it ourselves if we want to be involved in future reviews, because that's how the acre farm one came about. We're planning a belated celebration of the installation of solar panels on the Lakeview Park shelter next month. And I hope you'll all be able to attend our Solarbration on July 10th. We'll talk a little more about that later in tonight's meeting. We developed a work plan and ground rules that I feel helped us to define our goals and our objectives, remain focused on our priorities, and work well together as a team. And we've released our draft sustainable city plan for review this month. Updating the plan was actually updating the original plan was underway when I joined the committee. I believe it had started in 2017, but then it went through a couple of interruptions due to staff turnover and ultimately the pandemic. After the comprehensive plan was released, we revamped our approach and tried to align the sustainable city plan with the comp plan. We made it action oriented, manageable in scope, and we focused on achieving the city's 100% renewable energy goal. We also wrote it for a public audience so that all residents would be able to read it and learn about what we're doing, give us their feedback, and I hope learn about ways that they can help achieve the 100% renewable energy goal, either by volunteering with this committee or by making changes in their homes, workplaces, or commutes consistent with our renewable energy goal. So that is a lot of work, and that is a lot to be proud of. There will always be more things that we could do. There will always be more than we as one committee can do. We have traditionally been the only green box in the city's organization chart, but that is changing. And I think it's in part thanks to our efforts to spread or sprinkle the green, as we say. I know we'll meet with some resistance to what we want to do in order to address climate change and preserve life as we know it. Our draft sustainable city plan has a lot of ambitious goals in it, mostly taken right out of the comp plan that council approved. And right now, our city doesn't have the resources or the staff to do all the things that we know need to be done. But it's better to ask and have the policymakers say no or not yet than to not ask at all. Our experience with the residents who advocated for greening the fleet, I think bears that out. And I'll paraphrase Margaret Mead and say, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change our city. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. So thank you for the opportunity to lead this amazing and dedicated and talented group of individuals over the past 2 years. Those of you who were here 2 years ago, you really took a big chance electing me as chair. basically sight unseen at our very first meeting. I thank you for putting your trust in me, and I hope I met your expectations. And with that, we'll move on to the next item of business, which is to welcome our new committee members. And with the last name Hanairo, I'm very conscientious about name pronunciation. So I'm going to ask each of you, starting with, we'll go alphabetically by last name, but I'll ask each of you to help us with name pronunciation. Laura, we'll start with you.
Okay, hi, I'm Laura Buckholtz. So think of it as Buck and Holt, and you'll be good.
Great. And do you want to share a little bit about yourself, neighborhood you live in, what brought you to want to be on the sustainability committee?
Sure, I live in Bishops Bay community off of Q. I just moved here about 3 years ago, right before the pandemic started. But I'm very familiar with Middleton. My mother-in-law lived here until she passed away. So I've been visiting the city and enjoying the city for over 25 years. And we just finally had a chance to move back. During the pandemic, since I'd gotten here, didn't have a job yet, I rethought things and thought, like millions of others, what do I really care about? And decided to go back and get my master's in sustainable management, which is what I'm doing now. So I was in education before, so I'm going to try and use those skills and add new ones with sustainability. I've already acquired quite a few, and hopefully serve on the committee and make, try and use my skills for the community I live in. That's what brought me here.
Great. That sounds wonderful. Thanks. It's good to meet you, Laura, and thanks so much for being here.
I just want to comment that I think Laura's on a treadmill. I'm watching her moving along here.
Yes.
That's very innovative. You're really moving. Okay.
Yeah, do you
is.
like the unfinished basement decor behind me?
Actually, Laura, I noticed you were moving. I wasn't going to say anything, but since Dick did, but as I was thinking about it, I thought, it looks like she's in a basement or something, but you could be walking on a trail somewhere, and that's your virtual background, which
Right.
I think is worth trying sometime. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Scott, we'll move next to you.
Muted.
It looks like he's trying to unmute. You're still muted, Scott. There
How's
you
that?
go. Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, hi, my name is Scott Harrington. I live right by Tiedemann's Pond here in Middleton, and I own a landscape and tree service. I'm a certified arborist with a focus on sustainable landscape design, permaculture, edible landscaping, and I also build and design various types of bird houses, bat houses, and I just got into nesting boxes for owls, particularly screech owls. And then I've done a few platforms for great horned owls, and we put a bunch in on a farm out just outside of town last fall, and we already have a family of owls that has moved in there. So that's been inspiring, and I also have a background in education, and that's one thing I mentioned when I met with Gerda, that I'd like to continue with that. I've done some like tree planting ceremonies at schools. I really like working with kids. I have really good access to wholesale nurseries, so I can get bulk seedlings. I've organized Arbor Day events before, mostly when I lived out in Massachusetts, and we got some grants through this organization called the International Society for Arboriculture, which I'm a member. So there's some grant opportunities there, and a number of other places that very often, sometimes they go unclaimed some years. So yeah, it's kind of a nutshell.
Great. Well, thank you for being here, Scott. We're glad that that you applied and got on this committee. And it sounds like you have a great background, and it's an area where we have a lot of interest, but not a lot of bandwidth. So having you will be really helpful. And last, we'll go to, I believe, is it Shreya? Okay.
Hi. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Shreya Ramesh. I will be representing a high school student on this committee. One reason that I wanted to be on this committee was because of my dad. He's ingrained the sense of a sustainable lifestyle in me ever since I was a kid. And I think that most of my education has come from him. And I thought I wanted to make an impact on the city level. In addition to being on this committee, I'm also on the school district sustainability committee, where I focus on waste reduction. As of this fall, I will be on the high school's green team as well. I'm a rising sophomore, and I'm very excited to work with all of you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
That's great. Again, another great fit. And can I just say that you three have picked a wonderful committee to work with and be a part of. This is, as you may have guessed from the list I went through, this is a really active committee. We do more action than, I don't want to make it sound like reviewing and commenting and approving things is not action. It is, and that's a very important function that all the city committees, boards, and commissions have. But this committee, I think traditionally has also gone beyond that to really take on projects that we lead up and, you know, roll up our sleeves and do the work, like Dick working on the bulbs and all the other ones you'll hear about when we get to our work plan. So welcome everyone. And oh, Dick, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask Shreya, right? Shreya?
Shreya.
Yeah. Shreya. Yeah. Are you a sophomore? Is that what you said?
I'm a rising sophomore this fall. Yeah.
A rising sophomore. I know.
That's a new.
Okay.
That's what we say
This fall she
today.
starts being a sophomore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
rising
That's
up
great.
today.
That's great because Daphne was a sophomore when she started. And so having somebody, you know, at that age, your age, so they could be here for a while, that really adds extra value. So
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, and I look forward to meeting your dad someday to find out how he managed to ingrain this in you. That's great. Great news for parents everywhere. Okay, well, let's move on then to Kelly's staff report. New members, what we traditionally do is Kelly, instead of having to give the staff report, she always writes up one and circulates it in advance. And then we just ask her questions to clarify or get more information on what she puts in the staff report. So does anybody have any questions for Kelly? I don't see any hands raised. I had a few. Kelly, can you, on page 8, I never know if I should say page 1 of 2 or page 8, but it's the first page of the staff report. Can you just define BIL monies and MPO? I think the EV charging is easy enough, but.
The BIL is the bipartisan infrastructure money and the federal stimulus money, and the MPO is the Madison Planning Organization, or I'm not exactly sure what that stands for, but there are planning entities in different regions, and they manage the BIL monies locally. So they got a chunk of the BIL money from the federal government, and then they had only so much to distribute to the local municipalities. And so we applied for one of the grants and received $164,293 from that. We asked for more, but they had to spread it out to the other municipalities as well. So that makes, as that item says, $264,000 that we have going forward for EV charging funds, as well as purchasing, or at least providing for the upcharges for vehicles. I think we can purchase some outright with that money.
Great. Okay, I see Christy has her hand raised, so we'll go to Christy next.
Hi, thank you. Quick question about the microgrid. It says project terminates. Did you have good participation, Kelly? on that one? How did it
We-
go?
We did. I think there's a lot of interest, and I think we had great partners in it. I just think
Mhm.
that the money came to us in the fall, I think in November of 2021, and then it took, because of the holidays, we sort of lost an entire month because of meetings and people being just disengaged a little bit. Like, I mean, there's a lot of entities involved when you try to get contracts written. You have to speak to the lawyers and all the entities involved. And so we didn't actually get a signed contract because there was some back and forth until pretty late. So that meant that
Yeah.
a project that was already less than a year ended up being only about 5 months. And so I
Yeah.
really think for some people, a lot of the people who received those microgrid grants were doing like one building, like a library. And we were
Mhm.
doing an entire business park spread out over many, many acres with all kinds of complicated moving parts to that. And so it was like reaching out to 60 businesses. I just feel like it could be more powerful if we had, you know, a year or two to do a project. I mean, it's a feasibility study, so you don't want to spend forever. But
Yeah.
if we even had a full calendar year, I think it would have gotten more granular data from the businesses. But there was interest from some of the major corporations and businesses out there. We made some really great connections. And then HGA Engineering, who was our contractor on that, is working with MuGrid, which is a nationally recognized firm kind of on the cutting edge of microgrid technologies. So, I haven't seen the final report yet. I think it'll be useful, but I feel like it'll be a launching point rather than okay, it's fully baked, now we can just implement it.
Yeah, but launching point sounds good too, you know?
Yeah,
gotta-
I'm really excited about it. I mean, I think it'll be great. I think it's the beginning.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. Okay, we'll go next to Kermit and then Laura and then Dick.
Yeah, just revisiting the microgrid thing again, so just to clarify and make sure I'm tracking, the report has to do with just the plan that was being developed for the microgrid. So then you still have to go through bidding an actual contractor to do installation, or are you saying the whole thing is done and now they're just reporting on the work they did?
Oh, no, this is just a feasibility study.
Okay, that's
A microgrid at this community level, there's only a few in the country. And
right.
they're very, very difficult to plan. And you need to work with your utility and then all the different
Yeah.
entities. So this was more like let's run some scenarios, do a lot of modeling on what we could get done and accomplished, and then locate where all the generators are out there, talk to businesses about the amount of acreage available for solar, and then really work with the utility on how can we run feeder lines from this substation, and could we potentially connect to the airport solar? And I think all those questions can't be answered so quickly. But I think it's going to be a good start. And I think with MuGrid as a sub consultant as well, they'll be able to provide some scenarios, talk through some of the financing. Even the technology, which is difficult, is one thing, but then the financing to figure out how would you actually implement this? Would there be a cost share with all the participating buildings? Would it be grant funded, major grant funded, like from Department of Energy? Would it be a combination of all these different types of it's like it's its own project in itself, the financing. So this is like studying all that, and then they're going to do a report with what they've found thus far. And as I said, I think more than anything, I think it's really created some good relationships with, some of the businesses out there. And now they were really interested in it and wanted to learn more. So I think we'll continue talking about it. They're really interested because a lot of them, were flooded out in the last flood. They lost power. Businesses like PEPD, they require constant refrigeration for their labs, and so they can't be offline. And they have generators to cover the power, but it's a sketchy thing when you look at community-wide disasters and keeping things online, and for the community as well.
Right. And so the next phase in terms of actual implementation, it could be years from now before something really happens, or do we have a viable next step to actually make something happen sooner rather than later?
Well, I haven't read the report yet. It's not finished. So hopefully once we get the report in hand, which will be probably in July, we can read it and see, it looks like, scenario 1 and 2 look more potentially possible. And then there would probably be more planning, lots of grant research, working more with local businesses, some more organization before we could actually move forward with, what we would like to implement. I do think it's really important for a lot of engagement with the entities that are out there and with our utility to see how would we do this and do it well before we would start to like just try to do it. There's just so many people involved, and it's such a large scale project.
Yeah, and on the sustainability building guidelines that you're developing, I'm just curious, what communities have you been able to cross connect with as far as input, or what other input have you been able to get?
Well, there's some sustainability guideline examples from Minnesota, but they have a completely different state legislative situation there. So you can require things a little differently than you can in Wisconsin, but they do have really nice templates that are not long. Like, what I do not want to do is recreate a certification program like LEED. This is more like a one-pager I want to hand to a developer at every meeting and say, these are the things we'd like to see. Or if it's in a TIF district, these are the requirements you need to meet for receiving TIF funding, and use our leverage where we can. But and Eau Claire's, done net zero energy guidelines. There's a bazillion resources. It's not that I don't have the resources, it's just narrowing it down to what we really want and something usable by developers and something that people could buy into. And I mean, developers more and more are coming to us and saying, we want to do what the city wants. What would you like to see? And if you want to see X, then can you help us get there? Like, with resources, or how can we figure this out? So hopefully this will provide some guidance and, be thoroughly reviewed and edited, I'm sure, before it becomes any kind of official document.
Okay. And related to that, there are a couple of things that I have been aware of in 350 Madison, now actually 350 Wisconsin. There's a research report that this team that are put together for basically developer incentives for green building. I don't know if you've already caught wind of that, but if not, let me get that to you. It might be germane to trying to use carrots instead of sticks to get developers to move along. Just some ideas of things that might be allowable under our state's restrictive legislation.
That sounds good, because we have no stick, only.
Yeah, we don't have any sticks, except for the TIF. We can require certain things in a TIF district for funding, which we already are pretty robust on that because of our TIF policy and because the planning department has been advocating for that. And we've incentivized over, I don't know if it's like 1.2 megawatts of solar through the TIF policy, just in the TIF districts, which are not, they don't cover all of Middleton, they're just certain sections. So there are ways to require certain things, but yeah, we need to work with the developers on all the voluntary stuff, and there are loads of resources out there.
Okay,
Excellent.
great. Kermit,
Thanks.
I think we'll move on to Laura then.
You do.
Okay, Laura and then Dig.
Okay, my question was number 11. The Community Civic Campus Project was kicked off again. What is that? I don't know what that is.
Okay, that's that's a project where the city would like to upgrade its city hall, and also the library, expand space for the library, and also provide space for a senior center that's more usable than it is right now. Right now it's in the basement of that old bank building on Parmenter Street, and it's kind of a maze of caves down in the basement, although it's very well loved by the users of that building. So we came together, it was more than a couple years ago now. The pandemic really derailed this project, but we had a committee formed of citizens and architects and different people in the community to evaluate and look at space needs for those three entities, as well as potentially adding a community center for the community, and placing it downtown. Although there were options where a community center might be better placed in a different part of town, or it could be part of the civic campus. And the civic campus would include the library, city hall, and senior center, and the community space perhaps. So we did hire an architecture planning firm, and they did some space, kind of a blocking conceptual designs showing like where the buildings could be sited based on the space needs, how tall they would be, kind of the massing studies done. So there was a lot of background work. They had a lot of community input on what people wanted to see, but there were no like architectural plans drawn up. I did get approved sustainability guidelines for the new community campus. So those were put through the plan commission, and I can't remember if it went through council or not at this point. I think Kathy Olson is on the meeting.
I think it did.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. So that sort of just came to a halt when the pandemic came about, and it was billed as a really pretty pricey project. And when the pandemic came around and the economy looked like it might crash, it seemed kind of tone deaf to really keep moving in that direction without reevaluating things. So just now, the community campus committee is meeting again, and we're regrouping, talking to the architects again, and starting the project back up. I think things have changed, and we have to work this into a potential referendum for the city, competing with other referendums from the school district. So there's a lot of things still up in the air, I think, but there's a definite, there's a need to make some upgrades. Right now, our buildings are really inefficient. So, it's not something where you can just get a new boiler and then you're good to go in the city hall. It would take quite a bit of money to really make that building efficient. And so that's why we haven't put solar, even looked at putting solar on the city hall or the library, because we didn't know if those buildings were going to come down or not within the next few years. There's going to be a big influx of money coming through when the TIF district closes, but it can only be used for certain things. And we haven't decided yet how to use that. So I don't want to say too much because, actually I don't know a ton about it. Kathy could speak to it better than I could at this point, but it's beginning again, and there'll be a lot of discussion about it in the coming months.
Yeah, and I just shared the link, Laura, in the chat to the city's webpage about this, the whole project. So
Okay,
it's a
thank you.
good resource. And then we'll go to Dick.
Sorry. Number 3 on the ARPA, just for the new members, can you briefly explain what that is? And then I got a specific question about applications and how we're going to move forward.
Yep, the ARPA project is federal stimulus money that was presented to municipalities. It was the American Rescue Recovery Plan Act, and it's to benefit those who are most affected by COVID. So it did have some strings attached in that sense. And so so the city had approximately $1.2 million in stimulus funds. And in order to decide what to do with those funds, we put the ARPA funds through the budget process at the same time that the 2022 budget was being discussed. And so there were different projects that came forward, and they went through committees and council the debate, and this project was allocated $150,000 for the calendar year of 2022 to work on energy efficiency and naturally occurring affordable housing in Middleton. And our partners are Elevate Energy and Sustain Dane, and now also some public health entities. And we're going to work on that beginning in July and August, and develop a task force or an advisory committee of community partners who can help us come up with an application system so that it's not just word of mouth, it's a vetted, and there's some analysis for the buildings. The last thing I'll say about it is that, there may be 7 building owners apply to have energy efficiency and solar potentially work done in their building. Some of them, when you go in to do an energy assessment, they may have so many problems and issues with mold and all kinds of things and they may not be good for solar, and they may not be the best candidate. But the goal is to help the people who need help the most with bettering their housing conditions, and also combine that with the people who can, with the buildings that make sense to do energy efficiency work in. So Elevate Energy has done this work across the country, and they're vetted, and they're working in Madison on this stuff now. So it's not like we're building a program from scratch. They know how to do this work, but we just want to tailor it to Middleton specifically.
Great.
Yeah,
And Dick,
so-
you had a comment or a
Yeah.
question?
Yeah. So I talked with you before, Kelly, about how we could finish up Voss House, and there was a chance to put maybe solar on the roof because it has, I don't know if maybe the new people aren't familiar. Voss House is a 66 unit low income housing over on Elmwood. And we've been working with them on light bulb exchanges. And I'm not sure they're going to want to push. They just put a new roof on, and I don't know if they want to push they're afraid of putting anything on the new roof because they would lose their warranty. So there's a big issue about solar, but they're putting new fixtures throughout the hallways, and they could use some help on that. And so I talked with Kelly about applicate, because this sounds like this funding could be used for that if they apply. So I was asking Kelly, and I think I heard you say that you're going to still be working on July and August to come up with the application. But you said in your opening on it, we've got 150,000 to spend in 2022. How are we going to be up against the wall at the end here, looking for projects that we want to be proactive on to spend that money before the year's over? Or how's that going to work?
Well, I think to do this right, it's going to take some time, and it's not something that I think anyone wants to rush, because I think we're going to need engagement with building owners and tenants, and we'll have to get in first to do, after the applications come in, then there'll be a series of energy audits and analysis where you go into the building and see if it's a good candidate. And then they'll select 2 or 3 units probably this year. And we may have to ask council to roll this money over to 2023 to do the actual construction work. We have the ARPA money through 2026. So it's not that there's a federal requirement that we spend this $150,000 by the end of 2022. I'd like to spend it to show proof of concept and that we're moving forward, but I also don't want to rush it. And we want to make sure it's a democratic process so that it's not, so that people can apply and we can really take time to look, talk to the building owners, the tenants. So I'm not sure about the timeline yet. We don't have a timeline, and it's also not something where this building could use a new furnace, but this other building could use some light bulbs. Like, it's going to be like a full kind of deep dive into that unit where you do a lot of work in one unit. And because we did at the very outset want to like go deeper in a building instead of go light over 20 buildings, which is harder to manage with our staff capacity as well. So I mean, it's all possible now. But
yeah, this is all good. I'm just glad we're not up against a deadline at the end. That was all I was really trying to get into. So this is all sounds very good. But the 2026 allows us to really do this in a better way and plan for it. And because it's an important thing to really get into some of these low income or older apartment units where people with less economic means are are paying higher utility bills, and so we could do some serious work here. So thanks.
Yeah, I think the front end will take longer. And then once we have the application, we're kind of off and running. We know the system we're using, it's tailored to Middleton. Then I think the other years can run much more smoothly. I think it's just this beginning stage we want to really get right, and set the groundwork for the next 3 years. And then also we will need to go back to council every year to get approval for additional funds. So we only have right now approved 150,000, but it's possible that we could get another 150,000 and then another 150,000 the third year. So in that sense, there's somewhat of a deadline. You know, I don't want to back it all up to make council nervous that 2 years from now we have only spent a small fraction. But I don't think that's going to be a problem. I mean, I think early next year, it's better to bid stuff early in the year anyway, so it may work out really well, or the timeline we're on right now.
Great. All right, well, thank you for the questions. And Kelly, thank you very much for the, not just the staff report, but all the work that went into it. These are super helpful for us to have. All right, now we move on to the next agenda item, which is the election of chair and vice chair. And we're going to start with the chair election. And as soon as that is over, I will be turning it over to the new chair to manage the vice chair election. So do we have any nominations for the position of chair? Dick, I see your hand is newly raised.
Well, I would like to nominate Christy Pulvermacher for chair.
Would anyone like to second that nomination? Kelsey, your
I'll
hand is
second it.
raised. Oh, okay, so
sorry.
Kermit is seconding that. Do we have any other nominations for the position of chair? Last call for nominations for the position of chair. All right, then on the question of whether Christy Pulvermacher should be the chair for the next year, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, same signal. All right, the ayes have it. Congratulations, Christy. I will now turn the gavel over to you.
Thank you. No pressure here now, just to take over. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate your confidence in me. And thank you, Lisa, for showing me the way here, and Kelly for also showing me the way, doing, amazing things. And I hope to build on your successes. So thank you so much. And to the whole group, thank you. So vice chair, do we have any nominations for vice chair? Lisa.
I would like to nominate Kermit Hovey.
Thank you. Anyone second that? And also, well, do I ask for, can I do a little, use the new card? Do I ask for any other nominations first, or should I ask for a second first? How should I do that?
I would ask for a second and then ask for more nominations.
Got it. Do we have a second for Kermit?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other nominations for vice chair? Perfect. Let's take a vote. Who?
Well, I see Dick's got his hand raised.
No. I would like to nominate Dominic.
Okay. Anyone second, Dominic? I can't see all the hands here. Okay, do we have a second? Speak up for Dominic. I don't hear one. Am I missing it? No. Okay, so in that line of thought, then should we take a vote on Kermit for vice chair? Yes. So all in favor of Kermit for vice chair, please say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Okay. Anyone opposed, or who's opposed? I don't see. Okay, Kermit, congratulations. You are vice chair. And please, if I am not doing these steps properly or anything, please let me know. Feel free to just speak up and tell me. Thank you. Okay, well, Kermit, congratulations.
Thank you. Given how far we are behind on the agenda, I won't pull out my long acceptance speech. I'll just say thanks, everybody, and keep up the good work and look forward to continuing the journey.
Okay, thank you. So I think we should just move on to the next agenda item, Sustainability Award for Businesses at this point. Who leads that one? Is there a certain person who would like to discuss that?
I thought it was going to be Dick.
I'm sorry, I was thinking about something else. What is the issue? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I don't have the screen up in front of me, so.
Yeah, okay. Sustainability Award for Businesses. Dick, would you like
Oh,
to?
yeah. Okay. Actually, Dominic was originally going to talk about it, and Rick was going to also talk about it, Rick Eilerston, because they're also on the committee, and Deb is in Italy, so I guess I'm going to talk about it. We did meet. We had the four of us met, and we discussed. We're really interested in pursuing this. We're talking about taking nominations online in the fall, and then we would select both a residential or renter category winner or winners, and we're not limiting it to one, and we might have a small amount of money to go with that. And then businesses, commercial or other entities like the school district, like nonprofits, that kind of thing, we would be offering plaques. So we're not limiting it to just one, but we are going to come up with criteria that would have to be met. And Deb called Eau Claire, because they're the city that she got the idea from, and got some ideas from them. I think it was Dominic that suggested that it might be it was Rick that suggested it might be very valuable to have the Middleton Chamber of Commerce, excuse me, get involved at least on this with maybe one member on our nominating committee for businesses, and they expressed an interest to know more about that. And so we would have to come up with some formal proposed guidelines about what this would be. And so at this meeting, we said we would just come back with some preliminary information, but our subgroup will have to work further on it for the next 1 or 2 meetings to come up with a formal proposal that the Sustainability Committee would recognize and pass and approve. So that's about where we're at. I'll take any questions you might have. Again, I think Dominic was submitting a report, and Rick was going to a Suns baseball game tonight, so he wasn't here to talk about it. But I'm not.
Sorry,
Kelly,
Dick, are you saying Rick? I'm sorry. Are you saying Rick Eilertson?
Yeah,
he's on the screen. He doesn't
Okay.
have the camera on, but I don't know if he's able to speak up
Okay.
or not.
Yeah, I'm at the game, but no, Dick did a nice job describing kind of the summary. I did. I sent out an email this morning, Dick, and included Kelly on it. So Kelly's got some of the information that I gathered since the June 6th subgroup meeting. We've got another meeting coming up on July 7th, I think is the date that we had agreed upon. One other idea was for potentially having like a chamber gift certificate award as to the awardees of the group. And I had a chance to talk with Ned Noel at Eau Claire similar to what Deb had a couple follow-up items that it sounds like he's basically kind of doing everything himself right now. So, I think one of the goals for the subgroup is to try to have a program that's pretty sustainable basically, and doesn't take a lot of staff time and just a minimal amount of sustainability committee member time. So I think the program that Eau Claire has, my thought is we kind of dial it down just a little bit, but the application process I think is really good and pretty straightforward. Just a 2-page application. We could knock it down to 1 page, yeah, I think that's basically a good summary. I don't think there's any action that needs to be taken, but certainly if there's any questions that people have now or later, they can contact Dick or me or Deb or Dominic, are the subgroup members.
Yeah, I might mention that for those that don't know, that Rick actually works in Middleton, and he's been involved in these kinds of things for Fitchburg some years ago. He lives in Baraboo, but he actually works in Middleton. So the business end of it, Rick was very attuned to. So I think you mentioned, Rick, that businesses like putting awards and plaques out and they can market with it, that it actually helps them as a business. So I think, and your comments with the Chamber of Commerce sounded like they thought it was a really good idea too.
Yeah, Lisa Quam definitely seemed to be very interested in it. My thought is once we, after we have our next meeting, we put together kind of a written summary that Lisa can pass along to the executive director and see if that's something that they're willing to participate in. But I think that would be a real positive both for the city of Middleton, for the chamber, and for the sustainability committee.
Yeah, any other questions that Rick or I might be able to try to answer?
Yeah, I just had a quick one on who does the nominating. Does the company apply themselves, or is it somebody else that nominates a company?
I think the intent is anybody can nominate, and you can self-nominate.
You can self-nominate.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and
or you can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jake.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I think it's definitely self-nominate. We probably want to encourage not have members of the award committee nominating, but really anybody else. And then one of the criteria would be that the entity, whether it's a business or a homeowner or a nonprofit organization or another group, would need to have a City of Middleton address.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the residents, certainly your neighbor can nominate you, or you can self-nominate again. One of the challenges, a project like Lisa's, for example, you and your husband put solar on your roof, and we think that kind of project should be recognized. So the challenge would be to how to do it for a committee member. But from a residential point of view, we want to pick out projects that really rise to the level, particularly in the criteria of renewable energy and things like that. If somebody puts a rain barrel in their backyard, yeah, it's a good thing, but we're going to have to come up with criteria that allows us to set the bar high enough for really important recognition that we want to get out in the community. Not that smaller projects aren't important too, but anyway, okay, Kermit, you got a question?
Yeah, one of them, I think you already touched on, maybe that's enough for now, just like, okay, what are the criteria going to be? And maybe related to the criteria question, which it sounds like is still in process, I would wonder whether you might, in addition to having like a top award for a category, like have an acknowledgement kind of level award, like you were talking about rain barrels. So let's say somebody has put in a rain barrel, put it into solar. If there's a checklist where they go, okay, they get 10 points, and you get a junior sustainability goodie award. Anyways, I'm just throwing that idea into the mix. So it's So maybe at least at the residential level, you might be able to increase the amount of participation and recognition, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kermit, I know you have a lot of good ideas in some of these things. Maybe if you have some ideas, you want to kind of write them out and send them to us, to our subgroup, so that by the July 7th meeting, we'll have those to think about. That would be useful. The idea we thought, excuse me, to give out a small, maybe $50 gift certificate award or something for residential projects. And in the other hand, the honorable mention category, we want to get the publicity out. We want the newspaper to pick it up. We want to get on the social
Mhm.
media websites and stuff. So we really want to promote good stuff. Sorry, I got something stuck in my throat. So, but if you got some ideas, please send them to us.
Right. Okay. And then that thing that was a question or concern is just, how are you going to make sure, especially when it comes to businesses, that we don't end up greenwashing or just kind of giving people something? I mean, it sounds like it's going to take a level of due diligence to make sure that we're picking out somebody who is actually doing something substantial in the business realm and not just some kind of token.
All good, important points. One thing, I don't know if Rick, we mentioned this, we're talking about giving out a wood plaque and using some of the recycled wood. And I think Kelly, you mentioned that we have some of the recycled ash trees that are available somewhere that we might be able to make plaques out for these awards too. So just something we're thinking about.
Yep. And that's well and good, but that's not responsive to my concern about greenwashing, where we give somebody a certificate for something that is superficial or irrelevant, or they put on a solar panel, but in the backyard, they're dumping, their waste directly into the Pheasant Branch Conservancy,
Yeah, we're definitely not going to want to have those kind of candidates win awards. So your point is well taken, Kermit. So we'll be looking at criteria, and if anybody on the committee wants to give us input on that, we'll be happy to have it before our next meeting.
One thing, just on that, Dick, if I might, that was one of the questions that I asked Ned about when I called him back a couple of weeks ago. Because I was curious if you had like a point. Go ahead.
Is Ned the person from Eau Claire, or who's Ned?
Yeah, Ned is the sustainability contact from the city of Eau Claire.
Okay, thanks.
One of the things that I asked about, if he has some like a point system that the review group actually scored, and he didn't, but he said basically things kind of just work out. They have just himself, and then I think 2 or 3 sustainability committee members that review the applications and then just kind of score on their own, and then they just add basically come to a consensus on who they try to get a target number of awardees, and if they get that target, that's great. If they have fewer, then that's fine too. But yeah, I think your point about making sure that they're good solid awards, or good awardees, I think that's really critical. So I think to the extent that we can get people on the review group that have a sustainability background, I think that'll be pretty apparent what because I don't suspect that there's going to be people that'll go out of their way to submit an application just for a greenwashing, but we'll find that out as the process unfolds. But at least Ned did not see that as an issue that was happening in Eau Claire.
Lisa, you had your hand up for a bit.
Well, someone had mentioned the idea of having wooden plaques, and for some reason that popped into my head, the thought of partnering with maybe an Eagle Scout to help us make those plaques. Again, just trying to bring more community partners into it.
I guess the issue would be that we want to have a plaque that's consistent from award to award and year to year. So we'd have to really look into that, whereas the paper, you know, or parchment, whatever, we want something that looks professional so that a business would want to showcase it in their lobby or their window or something, you know. So all things that we have to discuss, and again, if anybody has ideas that they want us to consider or issues that we should be looking at, send us an email and jot those items down.
Perfect. Okay, are we good on this topic?
I've got one other thing, Christy, if I
Okay,
may.
sure.
So we've got some, I don't know if it would be appropriate to just for Kelly to forward to the committee just the correspondence that we've had internally. You know, there's some good information about what we went through, and then I think there would be I think that meets the walking forum issues, just to give an update on what the subgroup is doing, and if anybody's got feedback, they can let Deb or Dick know, and obviously we'll give a report at the next sustainability committee meeting. One thing that it would be good to at least give some thought to is budget for this coming year. I mean, if we want to start at the end of this year for 2022 awards, you know, that maybe gets not, you know, basically awarded in 2023, there may be an opportunity to utilize some of that budget. I think we were initially thinking somewhere in the $300 to $500 range, but Dick, you might have some other thoughts on that. But we want to at least start thinking about budget for the upcoming year.
Yeah, I think we were talking, it wouldn't go over 500. We were thinking of $50 per household residential, just something more than a piece of paper. But you know, how many awards we going to give out? Maybe there'll be a whole lot of applications early on the first year or two, and then after that it'll dribble out more. So yeah, we got to figure out just how we're going to fund this thing. But we were thinking, since it would be early on in January when we have our full budget in front of us, we could plan for just how much that's going to cost. Yeah, Kermit. You're muted, Kermit. Kermit, you're muted.
Yep, thanks. I was just gonna ask real quick whether you'd or anybody had contacted or touched base with Sustain Dane to see whether they have any similar programs or projects underway that they could give us tips based on their experience there, or maybe even if we wanted to collaborate or coordinate in some way, you know, a joint award, you know, give it a little extra credentials or plausibility. I don't know. I'm just throwing that into the mix.
Why don't you write that in your email as another one of your suggestions, and we'll take it up.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the input, everyone. I think we should move on to the next item, work plan updates. Some of these things we've discussed a little bit, but who would like to start on this? Celebration.
I'll go with
Lisa?
celebration.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, so thank you. So for the new members, Celebration is our belated celebration of the installation of solar on the Lakeview Park shelter, which happened, I think, in October of last year. But, you know, we didn't want to be celebrating one at a touchy time during the pandemic, but also it's kind of a cold time of the year. So on July 10th from 2 to 4:30 p.m., some of us will be at the Lakeview Park shelter. We'll have exhibits. So people, for instance, well, Kermit's in charge of the folks who will be exhibiting, but we hope to have MG&E, maybe focus on energy. Kermit, do you want to give an update? Well, let me go through the description. Okay. And then we also have, I know Shreya and Daphne are willing to be there doing face painting and also applying temporary tattoos for kids and others who might be interested in that. I think we'll have some food, and we'll also have, the mayor will be there. Some of the council members will be there. Brian Gatto might be there, just to, make a few remarks. It's not going to be like one speech after another, but just to highlight what the city of Middleton is doing to advance solar energy and other sustainability measures. We're also going to have door prizes or drawings for a selection of books that Kelsey picked out. The Arts Committee is putting together a recycling-based project, hands-on project for kids, and solar neighbors like me and my husband and Kelsey and her partner will be there to talk with folks about what our experience was, just to encourage people to, take the plunge and do it. And we're going to have some ads. I'd share my screen, but I don't want to take up too much time, but we have a very, an excellent graphic designer by the name of Maya Lathrop, who has been working with me, and she has developed a logo for Celebration. She has developed a Facebook ad that's also going to duplicate as a Middleton Times Tribune ad that's going to be in the paper on the 30th and July 7th as well. And she's working on flyers right now, and we'll get those up over throughout the downtown area. And we have a meeting tomorrow of our subgroup. That's Kelsey and Kermit and myself. And we've only got two more meetings because it's in less than 3 weeks. I see Shreya has her hand raised. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, really quick, me and Mr. Hovey, if I'm saying that right, we're discussing, I'm going to reach out to the Green Team presidents and figure out what their plan is for the exhibition and the tabling and everything. And then also right now, as you were speaking about the flyers, the school district actually has a new program where they have like an online kind of flyer thing that spreads out to all the different families in the school district. And I could also try to get that around whenever the flyer gets out.
That is great to know. Thank you for that. Thank you. And Kermit, did you want to talk about who's going to be there?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm disappointed to say that MG&E has said they don't have any staff available to cover it, and the Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change has a conflict, but we do have a number of folk who have enthusiastically said they want to show up, and some others that I'm going to follow up with, because I can't imagine that they wouldn't be wanting to and able to have some volunteers show up for them. But we got about 7 firm yeses and about almost that many that are still in process.
Okay. As long as we've got the main point is to have the solar vendors who are
Right.
working with Madison, or even the ones who previously have. For instance,
Right.
we had Midwest Solar when it was doing the
Yeah, so
the
we
solar
definitely
group.
have Renew Wisconsin and Midwest Solar and the Cullard Foundation. Still trying to get somebody from Legacy Solar. Their main outreach person is out of town, so he's trying to recruit somebody to fill in for him.
Okay. And it's okay that MG&E won't be there, because I still have a box of MG&E stuff. I've got notepads, I've got solar stickers, I've got a lot of stuff from MG&E from last from the Good Neighbor Fest.
I didn't realize we still had some, so I did reply to them when they said they couldn't make it, saying, well, do you have any promo giveaways, goodie items that you could still pass our way? So maybe we'll get some of those neat solar powered flashlights. But
that would be, they didn't give us any of those last time.
Yeah,
but if we get anything, that's great. But I do have stuff from them. So
good. That's good to know. And because you're going to be like part of the Solar Good Neighbors table, who is going to represent or staff the Middleton Sustainability Committee table? Do we have somebody we want to tap for that, or somebody who's willing to volunteer, or how do you want to handle that?
Well,
Go
I
ahead, Kelsey.
can always do it because I'm not a numbers person, and so I'm gonna have
You're going to let your husband do the solar neighbor thing?
yeah, because I don't have a memory for those kinds of things, and he's gonna look back and get more specific details, so I can always do that.
Okay, cool.
But if anyone else, I know Shreya is going to be there doing the face painting and tattooing. If anybody else is interested, even if, you know, it's just an hour showing up and helping out, please let us know. Many hands make the work light, and it's going to be fun. And Kelsey, do we have Just Veggies coming?
Yes, except it's a family-owned thing, and they have a tent, not a truck, but I thought that wouldn't be a huge problem. But they just want power. But when we were there were outlets. And so I sent him a map, and I kind of drew circles around where might be good. So yeah, just working on the permit for that, and they're already permitted to serve in the city. They just need an event permit.
Okay,
So
that'll be great. And it looks like Scott may be able to volunteer. And that would be for the Good Neighbor Fest. That would be great.
Yeah, I could come to the thing.
To the celebration?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. We'll add you to the list. Thanks, Dick. And that's my update, Christy.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, we covered the light bulb exchange at Voss House. Do you have anything additional to add, Dick, or anyone else on that one?
Yeah, just that we're winding that down. We don't have a way of contacting each individual resident. So I mentioned before that they came down once a month. Kiwanis goes there and helps mom distribute food, and a lot of food is being given out. And so we had a table also with light bulbs, and some residents took those in the first 2 times, but there's pretty much the same people are coming down to get food. There's probably a lot of reclusive people that are not taking advantage of this, but we don't have any really way to contact them. We're not allowed to put any notice in their mailbox. We've got some signs up on bulletin boards, but the Voss House administration won't do any direct contact themselves. So we've decided this last time that we're done with the giveaway on the light bulbs, but we did manage to help the Voss House facility install light bulbs in all the ceiling fixture apartments. They put all new fixtures in the apartment ceiling fixtures. And there's like 4 or so fixtures, and some of them take 2 bulbs, some take 1. So we help them complete all that work. So the only other thing that's related to light bulbs is the hallway stuff, and that's something that I think we want to move ahead with on this grant that Kelly was talking about before.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and so the light bulb thing, we have back ordered a whole lot more bulbs. I mean, a lot of bulbs, and we don't know if we're going to get them or not, but we were told we would. And so we wanted to go out to a whole lot of other apartments, and this is going to be a big project because if we get the bulbs, now we got to do something with them. And so we need to work with Kelly and other city staff to identify all the older apartment units and find out who the owners or the administrators are, or those that manage the apartments, so we can contact the individual residents to see if they want to do an exchange. So we got a whole lot more work to do on a bigger program if we get the bulbs, but everything has been on back order. It's a supply chain issue now.
Yeah, Dick, I have a message into someone about maybe helping to identify some of those other places. So if I hear back, I'll let you know. Okay, thank you. Dick's muted, so I think that means he's done. I think we should move on to the School Sustainability Committee. Shreya, would you like to update us?
Sure. So, as you know, I am new to the sustainability committee. So I have reached out to a few people, other students on the committee. I haven't gotten a response yet, so I can't provide you with a lot of updates this time. But for our next meeting, I will have some updates prepared. I've reached out to them, but I haven't really gotten a response yet.
Okay. Well, anything from you, any updates from you, or you just want to tell us where the committee's at? Anything? You don't have to, but you could.
So from the last time me and Daphne met, we talked about the resolution that they just passed. I think the Green Team is working on a few, or I'm on the waste reduction committee of the School Sustainability Committee. So I think as of next year, my plan is going to be more on educating the students, because more about me, like I didn't know a lot about how the recycling system kind of worked. And I think if we educate our students more, I'm kind of trying to work on that in the next school year. But as of now, that's all I have. But
okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dick has a question.
Yeah, any action on the composter? Because I know you had looked into getting one, and I thought I heard Daphne or somebody say that you might be able to get the school administration to actually come up with the rest of the money to get that composter. This is based on the design, I think, that Madison College, MATC, has used, and it sounds like, based on the newspaper article that we saw earlier, to be very successful. Any update on this?
I did read about that in the last minutes. Mr. Duquette has been handling most of that. So I'm pretty new to it. Daphne still I think she's still focusing on getting everyone situated there, but I will update you as soon as I get some information on the composter.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much. Let's go on to zoning code rewrite. That was, who does that one? That was Spencer before, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I just got emails from the planning department today with different sections of the zoning code about the covered EV cars, solar and wind. And I was asked to review it. It was very short. It just had, 4 bullet points, very kind of legalese wording. So I asked a lot of questions, and, I can provide the comments I gave back to Mark to the committee. I can send it via email if you'd like, but it's still very much, I think, in process.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that?
I have one, and that's just, Kelly,
you.
is this the only chance to review it, or is it going to come to the Sustainability Committee for review?
I hope so. I mean, I was just getting ready to ask Mark that in an email around 5 o'clock today, like what the timeline is and the process of, I'm sure it's going to go through public hearing and council, but as far as taking it through all the committees, I would assume so, but I don't know. So I'll have that answer for you very soon.
Great. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly and Lisa. Okay, strategic plan.
Okay, I'm on that advisory committee, and I reached out to the consultant to get an update, and this is what I got back, and maybe Kelly might know more, but I heard that there was a meeting with the department heads to look over or talk over some stuff, and according to the consultant, the department heads are compiling some additional information and providing more detailed feedback on what they've provided thus far. Brian Gatto, our city administrator, is arranging another meeting with them and the consulting team for mid to late July. Originally, I believe it was going to be released in draft in April or May and finalized in either May and June or June, July. From there, we hope to have a complete draft to forward for council discussion in August. And they are a bit behind schedule, but it should still be timely to be used for preparing the 2023 budget. So that's my update. And Kelly, if you have more to add, since I think you were part of that meeting, please do.
Yeah, I was in that meeting. I asked the consultants if they could please arrange a time for me to speak with them. I was never interviewed or brought into the process. And because sustainability is one of the 5 main points of the plan, I was surprised about that. And I felt like when I read the implementation plan, it was borne out from how they structured it, that they hadn't really spoken with me about it, because the different things that they were suggesting for implementation were falling under different departments when I have been handling those tasks. And so in some ways that's good, because I wish that those things were in other departments in some ways. So, I mean, it's not that it's necessarily bad, but I felt like some of the things that they were suggesting were items like, form collaborations and, relationships with entities to collaborate on sustainability. And to me, that's not really something for a strategic plan. It's more about, what actions we have in the comp plan and the strategic plan. I was hoping that they would get down to the level of, okay, how do we enact the items in the comp plan? Like, okay, it says here you want to be, you want to do this action. So therefore, do you need more staff for that? Do you need to move this item into a public works department? And in that case, would you reshuffle staffing there? Kind of like really digging into how do you get the work done? And instead it was just like, implement the sustainability plan. And sure, like, that's great. I want to do that, but that's, how do you implement the sustainability plan if you don't dig into how do we accomplish these actions? So I think a lot of people in all the departments felt that way about their own items. And there was a lot of confusion. So I'm going to be really interested to see what comes out of the staff comments back to the consultants and what they do with that.
That's good feedback, Kelly. Very
Yeah,
good
and
feedback.
I just want to comment as a member of the advisory committee. I can tell you, this is operated unlike any advisory committee I've ever been on before or staffed. For the staff to have the implementation plan and be able to see it before the advisory committee gets a look at it, to me is just, we're misnamed. We should have been a focus group instead of an advisory committee, because we haven't really advised anything, not even when we would meet or how often. So I'm curious to see what the plan looks like.
I do think it's really important for the staff to weigh in early, because we do know how it's structured and how work gets done in the city process internally. So there were things I feel like that came from the public that were great. Like, we want to be renewable. And that's great. Like, that's a goal, that's a vision. But in order to do that, I feel like you do need to sit down with staff and really get down into the weeds on how does this get done.
Yep. No, totally. I'm not saying the staff shouldn't have seen it. It's just that, we've had another advisory committee that was active for 4 years, and they were definitely much more active and much more advisory than this one has been. And maybe that's intentional. Maybe those two things are related. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this finally coming out. And I really do hope it draws heavily from the comprehensive plan. It would be a shame if it doesn't.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I think move on to Good Neighbor Festival. Is that Dick? Is that Lisa?
Well, it was going to be Deb. I think it was Deb who brought this up, wanting to make a commitment or have the committee make a commitment as to whether or not we're going to have a presence at the Good Neighbor Festival. I guess since Deb's in Italy, I will speak to this and say, I think we absolutely should do it, even if it's a smaller scale than what we did last year. I think it was great to have a parade entry and get our messages out there. We still have a lot of really good signs. We can make new ones. We can get more people than we had in our entry. And I could go either way with the booth. But as much as I really think we should do this, I cannot lead the effort. I don't even know if I could be involved in planning it, but I definitely would be there to hold a sign or or drive someone else's electric car.
And we should let Shreya know that we would look forward to the green team of the high school joining us for that
Yes.
parade entry, presuming we actually get this off the ground.
Definitely, yeah. I will put that out to them. I will also be there at the Good Neighbor Fest, so I can also help out.
It's a
What's
great
the
point,
date?
Carmen.
Again, what's the date of the Good Neighbor Fest?
I think it's the 26th through the 28th, if I'm not wrong.
Of August, 26th?
August.
Yep, of August, sorry. Yes, of August.
Yes, that's Shreya is correct. And the theme this year is the sky's the limit, which lends itself to all kinds of wordplay related to climate change. Like the sky really is the limit. Stuff.
Thank you. Good one. Good.
Yeah, I think the parade would be on Sunday, the 28th.
Yeah.
And I'd like to suggest maybe as a way to get our newer members engaged in some project, maybe one or two of them would be willing to serve on a subgroup that would help us organize for that. I don't want to put you under the gun here, you new ones. Certainly Shreya, I think Daphne mentioned that she would really push to have the green team be the student energy. If we're running around distributing bags or something, it's nice to have the youth with more spring in their step than some of us old guys. But no, it's my sense last year, because I did help out on the booth. As we said at last meeting, we had way too much material that everybody was trying to give out, including stuff on the Arboretum and on everything, and I think we ought to focus our message if we're going to do a booth. But quite frankly, I like with Lisa, I could go either way on the booth, but I think the parade, just to have a presence there, knowing that, hey, sustainability is really important, but that might mean that we have to come up with some signs or a mini float, or a lot of work could go in this or not.
Yeah.
So,
Mini float's a good idea. Would anyone like to weigh in on whether they think we should have the booth? I think the booth, I wasn't there last year, I couldn't, but it seems like it was a lot of work and time over, pretty, substantial weekend for people to commit to, rather than just the parade. What do people think of that?
I'll just say Daphne was staffed at the entire time.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so others of us did 2-hour shifts and stuff, and it was particularly hot. And somebody brought in a solar powered hookup for a fan, and that was ungodly wonderful, just to keep air moving in front of us. But the logistics of a booth is its own separate issue related to different than the parade itself. So, but we did have bags to hand out. And we put some materials in the bags, like little pamphlets or something that we wanted to really promote. But we had way so much stuff at the booth. But and I don't, the time I was there, I didn't feel that many people came up and got really into the weeds on important stuff. Not saying it couldn't, but I didn't feel like there's so many other distractions around the booth time, the food and the carnival, and people with families and kids, and they wanted to go to the beer tent to hear the music. And so the booth was, I didn't find a lot of people made much use of it. That's just my take.
Okay, do we want to take a vote on having the booth, or table that, for further discussion for the subcommittee group? What do we think?
I would say, why don't you have a subcommittee form that would agree to meet and just talk about how we're going to deal with Good Neighbor Fest, which allows them to discuss the parade. The students obviously are a big part of it, and then
Yeah.
discuss, do we want a booth or not?
Okay. So subcommittee. So who would like to be on the subcommittee? Shreya, you for sure.
Yeah.
If you're okay with that. Okay, Dick, do you want to lead the subcommittee then?
I don't want to lead it, but I will participate.
We'd be in it. Okay, Shreya, you can lead it.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yes, definitely.
Okay, anyone else like to be part of the subcommittee? Well, 2 is a good number.
Well, I really feel we need more because this
Yeah.
is going to take a lot of work to pull off.
Okay.
If
Well,
we don't have the
Kermit?
enthusiasm to be on it, then we shouldn't do it.
Well, I mean, if we're using existing posters and existing banners and we're just going to do the parade, then I think it makes it quite manageable. All we need to do is recruit people like us here and this high school green team. And actually this gets to the question I was going to put out there is what would be the pluses and minuses of involving allied groups? I'm just throwing this out as kind of a brainstorm, but Sustained Aim, 350 Wisconsin, Citizens Climate Lobby, all might have people who might be willing to participate to help kind of boost the numbers, as long as they got to give their angle on the sustainability message in some way with signs or whatever.
Well, I'll just say we expanded it to all these different types of groups last year, and the entropy of the universe doubled in that process. So,
What do you mean? I didn't see anybody else in the parade. I mean, we had.
I don't mean the
brochures for other
parade. I
groups,
guess I
but-
meant at the booth and stuff.
Okay, well, yeah. I'm not talking about the booth. I'm talking about the parade at this point.
Well, my sense is the parade is the Middleton Sustainability Committee, but we are partnering with the high school green team. I think going to 350 Wisconsin, I'm not saying we couldn't, but that just makes it more complicated. And so,
Yeah, and I'm asking, yeah. It's a way to possibly get more people to beef up the numbers for a sustainability focused contingent. But I don't know how many would be jumping at that chance anyway, so it might be a moot point.
Christy, I
Lisa?
really think,
Oh, go ahead, Dick.
I
And
just
then
think, I
Lisa.
think it'd be really important that you be on this committee because this is kind of a big deal for our.
I can be on the committee, sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa.
2 things. I was going to remind everyone that Deb, she's not here, but she did bring this up, so she might be willing. I don't know that for sure. And then also the green team actually is on our banner, if everyone remembers. So definitely the green team is an important partner in this.
I have a point to add. The booth, if we decide to do it, I think last year, the booth itself, I think if we add some more trivial aspects, because they're mostly, our audience is mostly kids at the Good Neighbor Fest, so I think we can educate a lot of people, but I think we need to make it a little more fun than just more kind of education. But if we do that, it could be a good platform for us as a committee. But I'm pretty sure for the parade, I can get the green team members to step up as well. Okay,
Perfect. Thank you. I think we have a plan. And I realize it's 8:07 and so we need to, would someone like to make a motion to extend the meeting? Can I make it till 8:30 so we only have to motion one time?
Yep.
Okay, someone like motion.
I'll move that we extend the meeting to 8:30.
I'll
Second.
second.
Thank you. Vote yes,
How many?
Yeah.
everybody? Okay, thank you. 8:30 it is.
Point of
Hard
order on this, point of order, please. Is this something that we need to do every meeting? We have never ended a meeting
Yeah.
at 8 or something. I would like to suggest, given that you are the new chair, that we just make meetings normally end at 8:30 and you being chair, setting up with Kelly the agenda and you controlling the time, that, you have the discretion of, well, we can amend it earlier or whatever. But I quite frankly, this vote every time at 8 something to extend it another 25 minutes I just feel like we've never ended in the 4 years I've been on this committee, a meeting before 8:30. So that's just something I'd like to do and make a change. I know, Lisa, you were in favor of the 8 and the vote, but I'm more in favor. Let's make the meeting 2 hours so that our expectations are that's what it's going to be. That's just a suggestion.
I like that idea, just given the history of the last year. How do we go about that? Would you consider that, Kelly, is that a motion? Do we need to do something, maybe adjust the agenda next time? How do we do that, Kelly?
Is it in the?
Oh, Lisa, you have your hand up. Sorry about that.
Sure,
Kermit,
yeah.
didn't see
Well, I
that.
was gonna say a couple things. One, it's always been an aspirational goal to end at 8 o'clock, but Dick's right, we don't. And I still think we could, but we just don't. So that is how it is. I think when you've got a motion and a second, you need to take a vote on it unless somebody's going to make a different motion. And then the third thing is Dick's suggestion is a good one. I think revisiting the ground rules for the committee is something that we should do as a committee next time. That could be on the agenda, or whether to scrap the ground rules. I do think it's important to have some ground rules that everybody understands, and so we all understand the procedure. But I would not object to making the meeting time generally 2 hours.
Okay, Kermit, your hand's up.
Yeah, and Lisa brought up the ground rules document, which I think we should revisit, and that is where I recall we planted this guidance about the timeline for the meeting, so let's talk it through and officially upgrade the ground rules. My main, on the topic of the specific question or suggestion that we default to a standard 8:30 end time is our default is 8 now, and we make it to 8:30 and we're done. I don't want us to say, okay, now we're going to be done at 8:30 and be still going at it at 9 o'clock. Just because 2 hours is a good healthy chunk of time in my evening schedule. And actually, I guess another point of order is maybe we need to stop talking about this because this was not listed on the agenda as a topic. And so.
Good point. All points are well
I think we
taken.
need to table this item. And as Lisa suggested, we put it on the agenda for next time.
Points well taken from everyone. Thank you. Okay, anybody else has their hand up? I'm on my iPad and I can't see all the faces at one time. So next time I'll be on my MacBook so I can see whose hands up at one time. Okay, so given that I do want to be done right at 8:30 per Kermit's comment, and also I'd like that idea as well. So fleet subgroup, do we have an update on that today?
Hey, Christine, I think we need to, don't we need to vote? I don't think we
Oh, did
voted
we
on
vote?
the.
Yeah, to extend,
Good.
right.
Good,
Yeah.
good point of order.
Okay, so we need a vote to extend till 8:30. So all in favor?
Hi,
Is that everyone or not?
I think you have to ask for the nays.
Aye.
Okay, right, any nays? Okay, 8:30 it is. Thank you, Lisa.
Hmm.
Okay, fleet
Yeah.
subgroup.
As far as fleet subgroup, just briefly, Dominic and I met with Brad Hopwood, who's the operations guy for the city, and he seems to be really on board with doing what they can. He's been doing research about renewable energy powered vehicles. We had a good conversation. And I won't get into the weeds, but we're making progress, and he seems to be on board with the tool and the overall objective of decarbonizing the fleet. And of course, his main concern is that we not adopt a technology that torpedoes our ability to serve the public in a timely way. And so we're sympathetic to that, but at the same time wanting us to not be so concerned about that we don't take any steps forward. So Dominic is going to be improving the tool. There are a few suggestions that came up in the course of our conversation and in the course of our follow-up meeting with the support group that's working on the fleet issue. And so the adventure continues.
Okay, thank you. If you don't mind, I might move on so we can get through some of these other things. Purchasing policy subgroup.
Christy, that's you and me.
That's it.
And,
That's what
and
I'm
it was
thinking, yeah.
Spencer, it was Spencer too, but we have not met yet, so.
We have
we'll
no
have to
updates.
Figure that out, yeah.
Okay.
I can
Sustainable
go on to-
you.
Yep,
Yeah.
Sustainable You. I'm putting in the chat the link to the video for anyone who wants to watch it. We had our last, for new members, Sustainable You is this webinar series that we do. And we partner with the Middleton Public Library and we do them on Zoom. And we just had our last scheduled one that was June 16th, last Thursday. It was called Recycling Reboot. It was well attended. Sadly, one of our speakers had just the worst internet problems I have ever encountered in a webinar. And I mean, I've been doing these a long time. I think he dropped off maybe 7 or 8 times, and it really interrupted the flow and made it difficult to get the information that we needed him to provide. But I had we had the Middleton Recycling Center folks there, and then Pelletary was supposed to speak about what goes in your bin, your blue bin, and then we were going to follow up with what can you take to the recycling center. And then I had like 5 or 10 minutes of show and tell where I saved things for probably a month. I had a stack of junk mail. I had aseptic packaging, just all kinds of different things. I learned that nut containers, the plastic lid on that kind of mixed nut container. No, you can't recycle any part of it. So just throw it all away or don't ever buy them. Anyway, it was well attended. People watched the video. We got positive feedback. In fact, people said I think if we had publicized in advance, bring the items that have always stumped you, I think people would have come prepared for that. So I could imagine doing that again, possibly in connection with a revamping of our trash and recycling guide. Liz Zimdars from the library sent information to me about the number of video views that previous episodes have gotten. So when we get around to talking about what our work plan is going to be for the coming year, I will definitely advocate for continuing Sustainable You.
Okay, thank you. Kelsey, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was gonna say the show and tell section was really helpful. And if there is any changes to recycling or trash, we should definitely bring that back or bring a piece of trash that has stumped you. I love that idea. Great idea, Lisa.
That's cool. Kermit.
Yeah, I think this kind of falls under Sustainable You. We did do a joint event in person at the library with Bob Lindmeyer from WKOW talking about climate change. And I don't know whether there's any report back on that to this group last time, but I just figured it's worth mentioning that seemed to be well received. It was the first live in-person 3D event the library had held since the pandemic struck. And we had a good turnout and representation from Pheasant Branch Conservancy, Middleton Sustainability Committee, 350 Madison / Wisconsin now, and Citizens Climate Lobby. And so good work, everybody. Teamwork and collaboration. Yay.
Thank you. Laura.
Yeah, my question was just, did you say that it's done for the year or are we doing more?
We had scheduled from, I can't even remember, did we start in September? We basically followed the school year for no particular reason and decided to take a break in the summertime because we knew we were going to do Celebration sometime in the summer. And we also figured we'd be planning for the Good Neighbor Festival. So we had originally talked about resuming in September. So June 16th was our last scheduled episode. And if we want to continue, we don't have to start in September, but you know, we would have to organize another subgroup to operate in the coming year.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Okay, food composting update quick, and then we'll go to the city staff. Who's the food composting update one?
That's me.
Yeah,
it
okay.
Sort of morphed from the Stonehorse Green composting. It was with Spencer and Rick, and
Yep.
I think I'll just let you read what's in the packet, because that was a memo that an intern put together with updated pertinent information about potential costs and opportunities for doing food composting in city buildings, including the senior center. There is a budget component in that there's a grant available through the Dane County renewable waste. I can't remember the name of the acronym, but anyway, it's through Dane County. They're offering $2,500 grants to do community food composting, and they asked for a 25% match. And so I thought, you know, if there's extra money left over in this year's operating budget and potentially early next year, that could be something that you earmark by motion. It wouldn't have to be today, to support that. And then we can get that grant written to see if we could fund some of the food composting. I think we could use it as a jumping off point and a communications piece and an education piece for through the citywide buildings and staff, but then also share it with the general public. There's one group that I think he profiled, Earth Stew, and I think they actually they weigh the waste and they provide you with like a report. So there's an added extra metric involved in that you could be useful. It could be an example for local businesses. So anyway, there's no decision item on that, but that's the memo and you can read that for an update. And I'm going to continue working with the intern on that and potentially apply for that grant. I think your match would end up being something like $600 to get the $2,500 from the county.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, Kelly, is the PowerPoint slide for HR city staff, is that you who handles
that? Is not me. I'm not sure exactly what this is. I think this was Kermit, right?
Yeah, well,
okay.
Basically, at the bus tour, I had time at the presentation that Mike Davis was giving on ethics and all to talk to the city HR guy. And he said that he gives an orientation to all oncoming staff. And that's something new with his coming on board. And I was talking about what kind of training do we have, for sustainability and for everybody to kind of get a vision that it's everybody's job. It's not just the sustainability committee. And he said, well, I could easily add a slide for my presentation. You guys give me something and it should be no problem. So I guess my suggestion there might be, do we have an intern maybe, Kelly, who could maybe take on a little design project that you could maybe give them some input on, or is that an option?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. I could see if the intern, I'm kind of hijacking interns from other people. I don't have my own. But I can see if the city admin intern would be interested in taking a stab at that. I have a feeling I would pretty much write it. Maybe he could like put it together for review by you, but I think that's a really good idea. I really support that. And also maybe even expanding that potentially to some interview questions that go into all interviews. That's something that other communities have reached out to me about. Janesville has written me several times and said, what do you guys do when in your hiring process from beginning to end on
Right.
sustainability. So I think there's even more you could do with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. This is kind of a low hanging fruit, kind of a small step in that direction, but I think you're right on that we need to influence hiring so that people start thinking about it right from the beginning.
Okay, thank you. So Middleton Recycling, no other hands, I don't think. Middleton Recycling Center, it's gonna have to be pretty quick.
Yeah, this was put on by city staff of the recycling center, wanted me to bring this to the committee. They are interested in seeing if committee staff would like to maybe once a year, not all at once, volunteer on Saturday mornings. Not so much because they're desperate for workers, but more about then the committee could see how the recycling center is run, what issues come up, just so that they understand the process. And know a little bit more about city recycling. And it could be for an hour, 2 hours. And they thought that especially during the summer months when the high school students aren't available to volunteer there, that it might be something committee members could do. And that would be in place of an annual event that's fairly long-standing of the committee doing 1 or 2 work days per year, cleaning the center on a Sunday morning. So I said I would broach that with you. And if there was conceivably some interest among some of you that sure, I'll take a Saturday morning once a summer to go in for a couple hours, then I can pass that along to them.
Any comments on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I would rather volunteer there than be forced to go and sweep out the place. And I've always felt that, hey, we have money in our budget. Why aren't we paying, students or somebody to help out on the maintenance of it? Because we have been asked all the years that I've been on the committee about twice a year to go over there and broom out the place. And I just feel like that's somehow that is not something that our committee should be asked to do. People can volunteer if they want, but I just feel like that's too much. So committee volunteers for Saturday mornings. We're doing a lot of time stuff now. I mean, if people want to do it, that's great. But I know that I object to having to go out there and broom out the place just to sweep it up. I feel that the city should have budgets for maintaining the facility. It is a city function. And if need be, then we could come up with a few $100s out of our own budget because we've turned back money at the end of the year and pay for, at least in the short term, the cleanup.
Thank you. Kelsey, do you have a question or a comment?
I'm just wondering if it would be more helpful for someone to go more regularly than just to have a new person go every week. Are they just going to be training or explaining things to a new person every week? Is it really going to be that helpful to them? I guess is what I would ask back to them.
I think it would be helpful to go as much as you possibly could. I mean, I think that they work 10 hours a week. That's all we have city budget for. So they're always scrambling to just provide that basic service to the city, but yet it really is sort of the face of sustainability for a lot of Middleton residents. I think their entry point into sustainability is the recycling and recycling center. So I think this was a way that they thought maybe the committee could be involved. And the committee, I think, was really instrumental in getting the center launched initially.
Okay. We have 2 minutes left. So I'm trying to figure out how to proceed on this. And paper shredding I see is on there too. Do we want to, take a vote on this next, or make a plan between and put it on the next agenda? Lisa.
Can I make a motion? I'd like to make a motion to defer items 9 and 10 on our agenda tonight until the July meeting.
Perfect.
I'll
Well, can I
second.
second it? I probably can't
Second.
second.
Everybody
you.
We
said.
have multiple seconds. We have
I'll
multiple-
third it.
Thank you. Okay. And so we need and then 11, you didn't say 11, Lisa, did you?
I didn't say 11 because that is what we're going to talk about next time. So that one
Okay.
I left on for tonight.
2
Oh,
minutes.
for tonight.
Only 2
Okay.
minutes.
Yeah, we have 1 minute. Okay, changes. We
So
do
need
one
to
right,
vote.
right?
We
Yeah,
have to-
okay, vote. Who wants to
Um,
vote? Lisa.
So the motion is to postpone or defer items 9 and 10 until the July meeting and.
Oh, and vote. Who votes in favor of that?
Yeah, all in favor, yeah,
All in favor?
yeah, aye.
Okay,
Aye.
great.
Who
Thank
seconded
you.
that?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody, yeah. I know I
Was-
did, but I think everybody else did.
Thank you. I
too.
don't know what I would do without Lisa here with this. Okay, and then so scheduling new city administrator, Brian, for July or August? Yes. What do we need to do with that? Do we need to have a motion for that? Do we just need to?
I think we we usually just discuss it. I think
Yeah.
either month that he would recommend would be good. I had a couple other things if I can bring them up, things that we might want to talk about. One is the complete streets resolution. If that is going to be going to before council eventually, it would be good for us to see that. Also the climate champion, I don't know if this is something the committee needs to discuss, but the climate champion awards, you can apply for those or nominate people, whatever. The deadline is August 1st and Middleton is a climate champion. So I don't know if we're automatically considered, but that might be something to discuss too. And then the last thing I had on here was the Homeowners Association restrictions on solar. I think that would be worth the committee discussing possibly next time, certainly in August, just to reaffirm that homeowners associations are very limited in what they can do to restrict solar. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there and it would be nice for us to correct the record.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Good points, Lisa. So I think we should, with no other further questions, I don't think, and I can't move my screen here for some reason. I think we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, who seconds that?
Second.
Okay, Kermit, all in
Or
favor?
we can do-
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone.
And as a formality of procedure, you need to ask for the nays.
Oh, nays. Thank you, Kermit. Yes. Anyone reject the ending of the meeting? Okay, thank you.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Good
Welcome
job,
aboard,
Christy.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank-
Bye.